Hey everybody, I'm Rob Freeman and welcome back. This week we're talking about securing the built environment and looking at Bitcoin and how Bitcoin aligns with environmental, social, and governance efforts, or ESG, by corporations and governments throughout the US and all over the world. And contrary to what a lot of people think when they think about Bitcoin, because it's such a large energy user, and because of a lot of misinformation that's out there, people usually think about ESG as being at odds with Bitcoin, or vice versa, Bitcoin being at odds with ESG goals. But in actuality, Bitcoin's purpose, the reason it was created, was as a social good, a decentralized, public, immutable, transparent, open source financial infrastructure network that anybody could access. So anybody who has a Bitcoin address can receive a payment from anybody else who has a Bitcoin address on the network without a middleman, without anybody in the middle, like a bank or PayPal or Venmo or any sort of third parties that you would normally rely on, that we don't even think about the fact that we rely on every day. And so KPMG, the interesting thing is KPMG is the latest company or organization to come out with a report on why Bitcoin aligns quite well with ESG. And I'll link to the article below this video where I go into a lot of detail about why the efforts and the goals of ESG are very, very well aligned with Bitcoin's premise and the technology and how it works. But I'll just go into a few of the sort of high-level aspects of it for you here in this video. So the first part is what ESG stands for is environmental, social, and governance. And on the first aspect, environmental, while Bitcoin originally was just working, Bitcoin, first of all, is 100% electric. So just like, anybody who says Bitcoin has a lot of emissions is really not thinking through what Bitcoin actually is. Bitcoin is 100% electric. It produces no emissions by itself. The emissions come from where the electricity comes from. Okay, so just like an electric vehicle is zero emissions because it just is 100% electric, but if it's powered by a grid that is coming with electricity coming from coal or natural gas, then there's going to be some emissions there. So same thing with Bitcoin. But on the environmental side, as a network, Bitcoin is actually, I think, over 50% powered by renewables at this point, which is maybe the largest network in the world to be with that percentage of renewable energy. So that's one thing. The other thing is that more and more in the US and probably elsewhere, as renewable energy is being built out on the grid, Bitcoin can be co-located with renewable energy developers or developments to soak up the excess energy that is used or that can be generated and not at times when there's demand for that energy on the grid. So this is actually a very common thing with renewables, where you can't rely necessarily on when they're going to be producing power, whether it's wind or solar. And so Bitcoin can be there and is being co-located with these renewable energy projects to soak up that additional energy and create a profit for the developers, which creates an additional incentive for them and makes the projects more profitable, which allows them to then reinvest in new projects and furthering the decarbonization of the grid. So that's one thing. Another thing is that Bitcoin can be used to soak up vented or flared methane that is produced in a lot of different situations. There's a lot of venting that happens at landfills. Venting occurs in the production of natural gas, also in oil wells. There is venting that happens in just leaking pipelines and things like that in different places that are maybe remote or so far away from a central location that they can't be easily capped. And so what a lot of companies, and I wrote about this maybe a year ago, there are a lot of companies that are building infrastructure for capturing that methane and avoiding having it be vented, which is the worst pollution approach to methane. and they burn it and they produce Bitcoin, which again creates a profit center where there was only cost before. So that's another thing. There are a couple other ones in the article that you can read about, but those are two kind of really interesting ones. And then moving on to the social aspect. So social in a nutshell is really kind of focused on human rights. And Bitcoin's overall premise, again, was to create a permissionless network for people to be able to access without having to ask for permission. Basically, not without having to go to a trusted third party, such as a bank or somebody else, to get permission when they might live in a hostile area, or they might not have access to a bank. There are a lot of unbanked people in the world. And this was created as a way for anybody to be able to send value in the form of Bitcoin from one person to another. And so this creates a social good that allows people who don't have a lot of privilege to be able to access money and in the form of Bitcoin. So that's an interesting thing, and it is aligned with the S portion of the ESG idea. And then governance really comes down to transparency and fairness in how things are governed from a corporate standpoint or a governmental standpoint. And the governance aspect of it, when it comes to Bitcoin, is very transparent. Everything is written into the code. The blockchain itself is public and viewable, so anybody can go onto the network and see every transaction that's happened from today back to 2009 when Bitcoin launched. And you can go and you can audit the blockchain, so everything is there publicly for viewing. And the software itself is all easily verifiable. So, and there's companies out there that's all they do is they track the performance of Bitcoin and the transaction history, and they can tell very quickly that Bitcoin is doing what it's supposed to be doing, and they can see all the transactions and where they go and things like that. So there's really no room in Bitcoin for any sort of quote unquote funny business to happen from some central authority behind the scenes to inflate the money supply or take people's transactions away or not let someone use it in some way or another. So the governance aspect is aligned with the idea behind the G in ESG. So anyway, this is kind of it in a nutshell, but thanks for watching. I hope you found this interesting, and if you have questions about anything, please feel free to reach out. Thanks again, and have a great day.